Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Rafaela, and I'm the editorial coordinator here at Architecture Hunter. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're very excited to begin another session of our monthly webinar series. For those of you who are here for the first time, welcome. We host webinars every month, always free and open to the public, and each edition focuses on a different topic. The topic for today is redesign, rewriting spaces. It's all about renovation, transformation, and the creative act of giving new life to what already exists. Before we begin, I'd like to remind you that one of the main goals of these webinars is to connect our audience with our speakers. So please don't forget to send in your questions using the Q&A tab. After today's presentation, we'll have a live Q&A moderated by our journalist, Daniela Silva. And now it's my pleasure to introduce our first speakers, Johanne Dahl Holmsberg and Claes Nilsson from COBE. Both have worked on several of COBE's transformation projects, specializing in reimagining existing buildings and cultural environments. Their work beautifully bridges heritage and contemporary needs, as seen in projects like Pacus 54, COBE's own converted warehouse office, and the Silo, the striking transformation of a grain silo into a mixed-use landmark in Copenhagen. So please join me in welcoming both of them.
Thank you, and thank you so much for the introduction. Should we just share the presentation now and start?
Yes.
Let's do this. See if the technique is working. Can you see your screen now? Yeah.
You can see your screen. Yes.
Great. You close this. Close it. Good. Yeah, as you said, we it's not changing. Oh, now it's okay. Good. Yeah, we are COBE. We are an architecture studio located in Copenhagen, where we are sitting in the North Harbor. Just minimize this. We are sitting here in a warehouse called Pacus 54 in a master plan we have worked on for the last 7 years. COBE began as a small startup in 2008, and today we are operating in 34 different cities across 10 different countries. And here's an image from our first office, and this is an image from where we're sitting today. We are both architects, constructing architects, urban planners, and landscapes architects, working across all scales. We work with, it's changing really slow. We're working with urbanism, public space and landscape, and architecture. It sounds a bit better in Danish when we say byrum and bygning, but the context is our foundation, and every project begins with the place, and every project begins with what is already there. We have worked with transformation projects since 2008, from cultural environments that extend across large area into individual buildings. Here you have two of the projects. Vibrancy, Lille, which is a former prison, and Jernbanebyen are two projects where we have worked with the cultural environment in a larger scale. And we also work with individual buildings, like, for example, Design Museum Denmark, as you see here, and Sporti. So we both work with the listed and preserve-worthy buildings, but also the everyday architecture, like Sporti, for example, which is a part of Jernbanebyen. Our office.
Sorry to interrupt. We cannot see you passing the slides. I'm not sure if you were supposed to pass the slides. Yes.
Can you see the page now called Pacus 54?
You can see only the cover, rewriting spaces.
Oh, sorry. That is strange. I think we are actually flipping through all our slides here. But you don't see that.
No, we can only see the cover.
Try to stop sharing and share again.
Okay, I'll stop sharing and try to share once more. You have rewriting spaces now, and this one. A lot going on here.
Så vælg den nederste. Og share.
Ikke virket for
No.
content only. Prøv lige at screen.
Maybe try to share not in a specific page on your screen, but the whole screen. I'm not sure if you're trying to share just the presentation.
We are trying to share the entire screen, but we keep getting this message that Zoom is quitting unexpectedly. Do you see our front page now, rewriting spaces?
Yes, we can see. We can see the front page. Okay, now we can see.
Okay.
Yes. Perfect.
Okay.
Can we allow ourselves to start over? Is that okay?
Yeah. Good.
Cut it out later. Right.
Okay, we start again. As I said before, we are a Copenhagen-based office. We are called COBE, and we have our office here in the Nordhavn and northern part of Copenhagen. We began as a small startup where we have this image from in 2008, and today we are operating in 34 different countries or 34 different cities across 10 different countries, and we are 170 people. We are both architects, constructing architects, urban planners, and landscape architects working across all scales. And you still see the slides, I guess. Super. We work with urbanism, public spaces and landscape, and architecture. It sounds a bit better in Danish when we say byrum and bygning. Context is our foundation, and every project begins with a place, and every project begins with what is already there. We have worked with transformation projects since 2008, from culture environments that extend across large area into individual buildings. Here you see two different projects, Fredsløse Lille Fængsel, which is a former prison, and Jernbanebyen. They are two examples where we have worked with the cultural environment in a large area. And on a building scale, we work with all kinds of buildings, both listed and preservation-worthy buildings, to the more everyday ones that you see here in Sporti, the ones that are not protected or classified. Our own office, Bofill Taller, is a transformation project too. It is located in Nordhavn in one of the industrial warehouses, which is one of the horizontal typologies in the area. It's closely connected to the water and the edge of the harbor. And here you have some historical images from the warehouse itself. We don't see the existing buildings as a problem, we see them as a potential, and our studio has always been based in places that have had other lives before us, each one with its own story and character, and we like to challenge ourselves to find the possibility and beauty even in things that we might at first see impossible or easy to overlook. Bofill Taller was originally built without windows and natural daylight, and today we have replaced the old gate with window openings, transforming the facade while keeping its industrial character. Our main entrance is also a cafe, a small way for us to give something back to the city and connect with the neighborhood, which is something we try to do in all our different projects. When we designed our own office, we wanted to keep its industrial character, and we left the existing walls quite raw and built the new ones from brick blocks, echoing the lightweight walls that was already a part of the warehouse. And here's another image from the existing building before we moved in. The building was originally designed to handle all kinds of objects, and it's a very flexible space, and it's a very general and robust structure, and we think it's a quality we really wanted to keep. So here you see the two different floor plans. We have the floor plans of the existing structure over here, and over here you see the plan layout for the new office. Inside the warehouse, we have created this little village of houses, which is meeting rooms, library, a printer room, but we barely touch the actual structure itself. We know that we won't be the last ones to make changes in this building, and this building will keep evolving after us because we are just one chapter in the building's ongoing story. And here you have some photos from the office today, where you see the gable of one of the meeting rooms over here. The building is 40 meters deep. So we have placed the workstations along the facade in the daylight, close to the windows, and in the middle of the office, here in the center, as you see in the image, we have a space for informal meetings, talks, and workshops. As I said before, Parkus 54 is a part of Nordhavn. It's an urban planning competition we won back in 2009 together with Sled and Polyform, two other architect companies. And we have been working in the area ever since. And we really enjoy having a one-to-one laboratory to live and work in right here in Nordhavn. The master plan is built around 6 strategies. The one you see here is here at the bottom, is the one about preservation and cultural heritage on the side. Only a few buildings were actually marked for preservation, and the red one you see in the map are the ones considered to have a high historical value. But in the master plan, we ended up preserving much more than the preserved buildings because they are part of the narrative and the harbor identity. The harbor area itself contains many buildings from 1950 to 1970, a time where there was a lot of building activity. It was really intense. And looking at it from today's resource perspective, we might even have preserved even more if we should redo the area one more time. Yeah, here you see the two images from the existing and to the new plan, how it's working today. When we walk around in the area, you always have this mix between new and old architecture. In this image, for example, you have this building here to the right is a new building. The one over here is an existing building, and here in the back you have an existing building with a new add-on on top. And here's an image from one of the other streets in Nordhavn. The historical buildings meet these new additions and continue to wave into the existing urban structure in the city. So this map shows how many buildings were demolished in Copenhagen and the nearby areas between 2011 to 2019. It's some data that came from our PhD student, Simon Sjöqvist. But why should we tear down buildings when we can use them? That's a good question. And now we jump onto the silo where Claes will give a deep dive into that project.
Yes, the silo, as Johanne said, is actually a part of our local area around the office here in Nordhavn. And we had the chance to dive a little bit deeper into this one, and were invited to develop ideas on this project. And the silo here was formerly known as the DLG silo. which translates into Danish Agricultural Wholesale Company, a company owned by a union of Danish farmers. And the building served as a storage for grain, receiving the harvest from around the country and brought in by boats, and then allocating it into trucks for distribution around the city. But the need for this that started to change during the 90s, and operations kind of gradually stopped over the following years. Then the building was overtaken. Oh, sorry. The OG silo. The building was overtaken by a private developer who actually has a strong relation to the area, since he began his own business by serving a lot of the harbor's practical functions. And of course, being an industrial area, the area around the building was not accessible for the public. However, the silo actually, the silo actually kind of played a visual role for the city, at least for many years, almost as a landmark due to its, at least for the historical Copenhagen, unusual high structure, 60 meters more or less, a small one, but a large one in the context. And thus it was visible from many parts of the city, especially the train, the public train going north from Copenhagen and carrying a lot of people on a daily basis. And then 2010, we were invited by the developer to develop ideas. And at the same time, the building had already, or at that time, actually, the building has been standing alone for the preceding 10 years, thus carrying both the healthy traces from industrial use, but kind of also the more unhealthy traces from being left alone and abandoned for so long. But even so, our client had this genuine kind of desire to make something of it, and pushed forward with a lot of ambition and most important, a lot of bravery. So, approaching this as humble young architects at the time, we dove into analyzing what was actually there and what could be relevant to preserve and to reuse. And the building revealed its significant structure with the operating tower in the north, which is this one. And then behind that, all these more classical silo tubes, vertical silo tubes, 27 in all, approximately 4 by 4 meters in plan, with the central ones of those being furthermore subdivided into 2 by 4 meters. And then on top of this, we had this almost cathedral-like space hosting all the machinery for the lifting systems. And honestly, it was a little bit of a surprise to meet this high cathedral space on top of the Nordhavn, and knowing a little bit more about the very dense and compact structure below. And obviously this space became subject for a lot of ideas and imaginations. Furthermore, the view from this space was, of course, a little bit nice, especially in the Copenhagen context. We don't get up this high that often, so this played a central role, of course, in the believing in this project as development and transformation project. Nice view, even despite the gray skies. So this compact structure meant that we, of course, had to cut a lot of openings, trying to make it suitable for housing. And that meant we were both cutting holes, openings, and cutting away a lot of structure and concrete in both the facades and the interior. And removing so much material, heavy material, actually proved to compromise the structure because of the profile of the building. It's kind of very, it's huge on one side and it's very slim on the other side, and making it especially sensible to wind load. So it became a challenge that we were removing a lot of weight from the building. And obviously that meant that we had this challenge or order, can we say, from the engineers, that one important job was to regain a lot of weight to the building to make sure that it will be still standing in the future as well. And this led us to be actually quite decisive on materials for all the new floor slabs, an example, and later on for the entire facade. Yeah, we kind of opened the structure on top, removing the roof, looking into this cathedral space. Kind of a nice place for the contractor to be working on a daily basis. But then, yeah, we knew for a fact at this point that all the new elements that we were to push into the project or into the building, that had to be heavy for once. And obviously, a cool thing would have been to reuse whatever we cut out. But that's old concrete, not categorized and so on, so not having the quality and the strength to play new roles in the structure. So we were adding quite a lot of new concrete elements, but building on top of the existing structure. So
yeah, we just discussed this yesterday. If we should do it today, would we then actually have added something else than concrete? Would we have done it in organic or like biogene material? Or it's quite fun to look back at some of the projects that we have worked on.
Yeah, it's been 10 years, more than 10 years. So it's really fun for us to revisit as well. But yeah, it's a good question for our learning. For us, and even for
we have a little visit
and our future projects. But fortunately, all the concrete, or at least some of the concrete that we cut away from the building, was usable in a different sense to play a part in the storytelling of the area and storytelling about what's going on. And that meant that we could use them actually on the plaza just next to the silo as these kind of city furniture slabs. So of course we aim to preserve and show as much of the original raw structure, the original texture as possible, and this being relevant. Mainly for the interior, of course, although knowing that people moving in would and should, of course, be able to realize their own preferences, since it is private housing mainly. And so actually the idea from the client was to sell everything and build everything up as a gray box, leaving all the apartments more or less open for future residents to affect them and do kind of their own style. Not all of them, but some of them were done by us more or less, and were actually following this philosophy of leaving everything as raw as possible, as honest as possible, and as an open storytelling about what has been going on in the building prior to this function. But of course, this was not really an option for the exterior. So our architectural approach was to carry on this story in a new way. And we especially embraced the overall expression of the building as a monolith, concrete monolith, and found that a galvanized steel coat could meet the requirements for durability and the overall industrial look in an optimal way. And that even meant that the new balconies could be wrapped in a carefully designed way, and carefully designed perforations would leave every apartment with a balanced role, at least between privacy and an open views towards the exterior. And the new facade was done with prefabricated elements, and all of these elements actually produced within 2 kilometers of the building site, and again, but also within 2 kilometers from the office. So it was a very nice, easy option to follow production all the way. But that meant that they had this very short transportation from fabrication to the site, meaning that they could do basically everything finished in these elements, including insulation, windows, balconies, and all. The only thing that was done on site was the wooden flooring on the balconies. And this new material and faceted geometry is now able to reflect the light in different ways. And with this original varying floor heights adopted from the machine tower, the new facade aims to act a little bit again as a landmark with a lively and communicating facade. Of course, referencing to the ancient informal status as a landmark in the North Harbor. Yeah, and then speaking about being seen, we had this funny experience that as the only COBE project so far, at least, it actually made it into this iconic cartoon series. Kind of a funny surprise for us to see it like this, but nonetheless made us even prouder of this project.
Yeah, that one is. Yeah, Parkhus 54 and the Silo are both examples of how we work with transformation of the harbor's buildings. The buildings are not listed, any of them, but although they are not listed or considered worthy of preservation in a traditional sense, they are very robust structures and contain enormous amount of resources, and continue to be relevant for our city and shared narrative. The Silo and Parkhus 54 are projects that are some years old, and we would like to give you some insights in what we are currently working on there in the office. The earlier examples, like these two buildings, as I said, industrial buildings, but as I mentioned in the beginning of the presentation, we also work with many different types of buildings. The last project we would like to present today is the Parliament, the Danish Parliament building, a competition we won last year, and it's made together with Argenty and Fragment. Quite often we work together with other companies, architecture companies, specialists, or engineers to give the best base for solving the projects. In Denmark, we usually split buildings into 3 groups. We have listed buildings that are really rare. It's just 0.2 of the total building stock in Denmark. Preservation-worthy buildings make up about 7%, and the rest are all the other buildings, like, for example, Parkus 54 and the silo, the buildings that are somehow too close for us in time to care. In the Parliament project, we are working with a listed building, and the first part of the building was constructed back in 1673, so it's a really old building. These buildings, they require special attention and a careful process, and they are much older than the buildings we looked at earlier, and they have a completely different level of craftsmanship, construction, technique, materials, layers, and history. When we talk about transformation projects, we always start with what is already there. We do the registration, analysis, and valuation of the building, and that is somehow our starting point before we start to create something new or built on top of the existing history. Sometimes we keep it very broad, just getting an overview, and other times we really need to go deep, because every project is different and every task is unique, and there's not just one way to do it and one way to solve the project. For this project, we went really deep, and the restoration architect put together a document which is, I think, it's 1,000 pages, focusing entirely on what exists and the story behind it. The site is one of the oldest in Copenhagen, and therefore there are so many layers of history to explore. And here are some pictures from the building archaeological investigation and registration, which we also carried out during the analyze phase. And in these images, you can see the building we are working on. It's called Kunstkammerbygningen. I don't know why you say that in English. Oh, we say. It has already been transformed several times before us, and our goal is to restore it and open it up to the public. And here's an image from the competition. In the courtyards in between the buildings, we create a new visitor center that opens up to everyone. The entrance is a circular amphitheater and a staircase designed to flow natural from the surrounding urban space. And we want it to feel inviting, almost like a part of the city itself, so people can just move seamlessly from outside into the building. The building used to be a national archive, a place where books were stored, and in the future it will be a space for people. So when we transform places and buildings, we stand on the shoulders of generations before us, and the traces we leave will shape the path for those who come after. You can say that it's a living story. It's always moving and always evolving and always carrying the past forward. Thank you. Presentation. That was it for us.
Thank you, both of you, for joining us today and for your generosity. It was amazing to have a deep understanding of some of your projects and your approach to transformation and renovation. Thank you for that. And to begin a little bit the Q&A, I noticed that your role or your work focus a lot on transformation and preservation, and how we can preserve these buildings not as they are, but how can they be reused and transformed to today, to a new function. And along your presentation, you already referred some of these aspects, but I wanted to ask you, how do you define the value of transformation in architecture today?
We think heritage and culture and our shared story are very central to our work, and that's somehow our starting point. And equally important is it itself to the material and the resources and the embedded CO2 that is in the existing buildings. But as you show, for example, in the silo images, I think it's also important to see this big potential in the existing buildings, that just sometimes we have these surprises of some amazing spaces with really amazing room heights or unique details or very valuable materials that are really difficult to get through in projects today because it's just really valuable.
Yeah, you kind of get this free gift in a way sometimes, because whatever program that we are adding to an existing building, it will, not most likely, it will kind of always be a program that is suitable for the building, at least. And then what the building could actually maybe be able to give back is always kind of a plus. There will, I believe, and that's maybe that's on my cap, but I think the building will never have a minus in a way, but because if it couldn't fulfill a new program, the building is just not relevant for that program, and another one will most likely find its way to the building instead. So that kind of thinking that you always have something extra in a way by doing a transformation project.
But I think it's also interesting that you cannot do everything. It's somehow a really locked task because you are limited in the way we work, and the starting point is somehow already there. It's just not an empty field. There's already a building that you have to focus on, analyze, and take care of. And you cannot just make a fixed program and then try to push it into the frame, because it could be that the frames are showing something different or another way to work it. And I think if we can be open during the process and find the right balance, I think you can create amazing architecture.
For sure, and you totally prove that through your project. And that brings me to my second question, that it's about balancing heritage and innovation, because preservation often means negotiating or balancing the past and the present, not only about the building itself, but most of the times with the surrounding, the context, the program, and so on. And how do you approach this balance in your projects? Because of course, each context and each project is quite unique, but how do you try to balance this in such specific limitations, but also opportunities sometimes?
Yeah, we have this mantra, like we're trying to do as little as possible, but as much as necessary, to make sure that relevant functions can fit into the existing buildings, which often were built for different use than we has a wish for today. And then it's also really important that people thrive, that we're doing architecture for people. Is really important. I think sometimes in some of the early projects we work with the contrast between new and old, so it should be easy to read what we added and what was the historical building. But if we see our building in a longer perspective, I think we will not be the last architect creating or touching these buildings. Other architects will come after us, so maybe we shouldn't see it so black and white, the older than you, but maybe try to weave the architecture into all the layers into each other, so other architects or people after us can continue the development of them somehow. It's not easy, but we're discussing it a lot.
I found it quite interesting that during your presentation you referred that in the first project you said specifically, we know that we are not the last ones working on this building or or proposing a new function for this building. So the history and the role of this building will go on. And I think that it's a very clear point of view and a very generous as well, this idea of continuity. So it was very amazing the way you did the project, and you shared the project with the audience. I would like to move on to some of the questions that the audience wrote. And one of them is for the silo project. It's a job well executed in terms of conserving the historical intangibles with contemporary architecture. But just want to know, how did you manage to decrease the carbon footprint while dealing with material like concrete and steel?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And to be quite honest, actually, we did this project, or at least we did the detailed design more than 10 years ago. And we were not less aware, but it just it didn't play as big a role as it does today. So, and basically, what we need to provide for the authorities, for the municipality, and so on in our projects now had different requirements at that time. So, I think we briefly touched the idea, and we are discussing it every day, every week, maybe. But if we are kind of revisiting this project, especially the silo project, because it plays such a central role in our transformation portfolio. And what would we have done differently if we were to do it today? And one thing is, of course, that we would be both required, but also intrigued by ourselves to do these specific calculations on the carbon footprint. And we know that what we did actually was to cut away a lot of concrete. That's that's not really the best idea. Then we added new concrete elements, and that's an even worse idea today. However, this was necessary for the project at that time. And I didn't mention along the presentation that we were invited by our client in 2010. The building was finalized in 2017. And actually the first 2, maybe even 3 years, we were in a process with the client of developing ideas on how can this building be relevant, what can we use it for, which kind of program could we move into it. We spent a lot of time, more than a year, I think, thinking about a cultural program. So we kind of wanted to open the building for the public, use it for, I don't know, vertical theaters or climbing communities inside the silo tubes. But it was super interesting to be in that process. But it kind of turned out that for the project, again, honestly, to be relevant both as an ingredient in the future city, but also a relevant business case, to be honest, for the client, we needed to look into something different. And that's why we ended up with housing, which at that time was the kind of the best thing to do. The safest thing to do. I did mention that our client is super brave, and I think he really was. However, he kind of needs to secure that investment in a way, and that it was, of course, a huge investment. So we ended up with a program with private housing and a public restaurant on top, and a public exhibition space on the ground floor.
But I think the good thing about design is that it's a housing typology, and housing is the most stable function we have. Like if it was an office or other functions that would change more rapidly, there would have been a lot of changes in the project already now, but it's actually quite stable. And it have looked the same almost the last 10 years.
Yeah. I didn't know if we really answered the question, but today, if we were to look into the carbon footprint, of course we would, and we are considering that more or less on a daily basis, what would be done differently within a project like the silo, and that's obviously all the new floor slabs are in situ cast concrete. We would do that with a different material, even though we kind of were obligated to add that weight to the building, securing soundproofing between apartments, and so there's a lot of technical requirements that are fulfilled. And even so, Sorry,
go ahead. No, go ahead. I was just going to share that the person that did the question just gave the feedback. That's great to hear. Your response is really motivating in terms of rethinking on the lines of sustainability. Thank you for the detailed answer. So I think it's important to share that feedback.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, and I have one more question from the audience, but unfortunately, it has to be the last one, but we have many more. So the last question is, when conveying a story through space while preserving the heritage, what are the major contextual challenges that one could face?
No, can you say it again? The first.
Yeah, when conveying a story through space while preserving the heritage, what are the major contextual challenges that one could face?
Yeah, good question. I think I'm not sure we know that yet. We are, as Johanne talked about, we are doing a lot of analyzing, starting off our projects like this, and that is both consisting of course, all the hardcore analyzing of the building structure and what's there, what can we use, reuse, preserve, and so on, and then with kind of the contextual. That's always a central part, and I think a natural thing that we more or less do. We do it every time, and I think it's part of our nature, and it's maybe not even something that we discuss openly every day, but it seems like I do think that all the kind of context that we have around our projects are always being collected, kind of condensed into data and experiences, and talking to people, talking to clients, new users, and so on.
The municipality and
authorities as well.
I think it's important when we work with transformation projects that you only see the building as objects, but it's a part of a holistic approach to the surrounding and everything in a broader perspective. So, for example, the silo is not only important for the North Harbour, but for the entire.
And of course, maybe I think for me personally, I think that the kind of the historical perspective is always super interesting. I mean, why is this the building that we are now approaching or transforming? Why is it actually here in the first place? What previous life has that been living? What kind of stories can we find, and what's it telling us?
You're always mapping this development story. How many changes have the building had before us to see how was the original actually thought, so you can actually read the existing or the original.
That's interesting.
Before we start to change, because I think it's important to know that story. So, what came first?
Yeah, and maybe I'm not sure if I'm actually diverging a little bit from the question, but I think at least one super hard challenge regarding the historical context was in a project that we did shortly after the silo, again, locally here in the North Harbor, we were transforming and rebuilding a former weapons factory. And the history of that place was actually quite dramatic. It played a central role during Second World War. It was taken over by the aggressor here in Denmark, thus becoming a target for the Danish resistance. And they actually succeeded in doing a attentate. Was that an attack, basically, on this weapon factory, because it came in the hands of the aggressor of the war, and producing weapons for the aggressor against the Danish nation. So, of course, that's why it became a target for the resistance in Denmark. And that they succeeded actually in bombing the factory without hurting any people at all, but kind of left the building as a ruin, and it was more or less left like that for decades afterwards. And then when we came, that history and story of the building was actually quite present, and that was a challenge in a way, to see how do we approach a project like this. I mean, can we
with this background?
Yes. Can we even be humble enough, and can we tell the story in a relevant, kind of decent way for the future as well? Yeah, maybe a little diverging from the question, but it's just
no, but it makes sense in the. No, it's very interesting as well to know this bit of a background from the projects, because it's always related to the way you approach a project, but also about the specificities of a project that are always unique. So thank you for sharing that. So we need to wrap up. I just want to thank you, both of you, once again for joining us. It was super interesting to see through your eyes how transformation is not just about preserving buildings, but also creating opportunities for sustainability, inclusion, and cultural continuity. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you for the invitation.
Thank you for the opportunity. Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you, Daniela, for guiding the conversation, and Johanne Claes, thank you so much for being with us today. We really appreciate all the presentation. And I'd like to take a quick moment now to share some exciting news about Architecture Hunter. We now have a YouTube membership program where you can subscribe and get exclusive access to the talks that took place at the Hunter International Forum, which was our very first forum held last August, entirely dedicated to architectural lectures and discussions. So if you're interested in watching those talks, make sure to visit our YouTube channel to learn more. And now it's time to introduce our next guest, Alborz Mohammadi, Chief Architect at Bofill Taller de Arquitectura. Since joining the Taller in 2017, Alborz has led conceptual designs for projects and competitions across the globe, from Saudi Arabia and Albania to Spain and China. His work reflects a balance between innovation and collaboration, bringing a fresh perspective to the legacy of one of the world's most iconic architecture studios. So please join me in welcoming Alborz, and remember to send in your question during his presentation for the Q&A.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for the introduction. I was changing the panel to join, so I missed the last part. So thank you, first of all, for inviting us to take part in this event. I'm going to share my screen. Please let me know that if you can see it. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see.
Okay, perfect. Okay. So Let's start with this panel. Today, as we are going to talk about redesigning and rewriting space, and I can't think of a better place to start than La Fábrica, the project that perfectly embodies this idea. It began as an act of transformation, the decision to see potential in what was once considered obsolete and to bring it back to life through imagination and collaboration. To understand La Fábrica, actually, we have to go back to Spain in the 1970s. After the oil crisis of 1973, much of the industrial sectors collapsed. Factories that had once represented progress were suddenly out of date. Abandoned when technology moved faster than their walls actually could adapt. They became the silent witness of changing era. Actually, it was in this moment of change that an abandoned cement factory on the western edge of Barcelona in Sant Just Desvern was discovered and reimagined by Ricardo. But many saw as a ruin became a foundation for a new type of creative space, a place that would evolve into both home and studio, where architecture, design, and art coexist under one roof. For the Taller, redesign has never meant simply changing form. It means reading the life already present in the material and structure, and then writing a new story on top of it. It's about turning memory into material and material in a new kind of meaning. La Fábrica achieves that balance, preserving history while shaping the future through collective vision. Rewriting space means respecting what's there, but giving it a new voice. It's about allowing an existing place to respond to contemporary needs and emotions. Each wall, crack, and column becomes part of a dialogue between what was and what can be. If architecture is a language, then architect is a reader and writer. At the Taller, we read the trace of the past, proportions, volumes, and scars, and write a new story through our collective interventions. That's exactly what continues to happen at this building until today. The transformation actually took place in several phases. The first phase, the cleaning, removing layers of dust, emptying the silos, and cutting away what blocked light and movements. Then came the greenery, softening the concrete and bringing a human rhythm into the space. Next, new architecture elements, opening gates and walkways, redefine how people experience the place. And finally, an ongoing phase that continues even now, adopting what was built to new need and creative changes. The first phase was like sculpting, removing unnecessary to reveal form. The team approached the factory with care, cutting away only what blocked light or flow, revealing the hidden geometry of the structure. It was an act of rediscovery rather than redesign, uncovering what was already there. The second phase introduced landscape. Vegetations began to climb across the concrete, softening the industrial edges. That wasn't the decoration, obviously. It changed the atmosphere, filtered light, moderate temperature, and invite life back into the ruin. The third phase somehow introduced human scale by new architectural gesture, openings, stairs, and pathways. Each addition was deliberate, designed to guide movement and connect the many volumes of the factory into a coherent whole. Through this simple intervention, the old factory gained through these changes, basically, the human scale started to introduce to the building and to the factory itself. We often say that in Taller, we don't demolish, we edit. We approach each space like manuscript, keeping what matters, cutting what doesn't, and adding new words when necessary. That's why this place feels alive. It's an ongoing dialogue between intention and accident, nature and structure. Every remaining trace of the old factory carries memory. Instead of erasing the marks of industry, the rough texture, pipe, and opening, we integrated all of them into the design. The detail became a visible record of time and labor. Imperfection become a tool for creativity rather than striving for flawless surface. The design celebrate irregularities in the concrete. They give the space character, honesty, and depth, a triangle connection to its origin. By controlling light, scale, and material, the project reintroduced a human presence into what was once purely mechanical. The result feels at once monumental and intimate, a balance between the roughness of industry and the warmness of habitation. Inside the silo, new life began to take form. 4 of them were connected to create open studios filled with light. Another became a private workspace, and one more transformed to a vertical core, the heart of the circulation within the complex, as you can see in this map. Between the silos, the void turned into meeting areas and informal gathering spaces. These in-between zones become essential, places for conversation, model making, and collaboration. Together, they form a small vertical city of creativity. Over the decades, La Fábrica has continued to change. While its structure sense remains, its function have adapted to a new technology, people, and mode of working. Its transformation mirrors the evaluation of creative practice itself. Originally isolated in the outskirts of Barcelona, the complex now stands within the thriving residential neighborhood. What was once a forgotten ruin has become a cultural landmark, a living reminder that architecture can redefine not only a building, but an entire community. From the beginning, the building was designed as both home and a workspace, a continuous space of life and production. Architects, artists, and designers shared the same environment, blurring boundaries between creativity and daily life. This environmental fosters intensity and imagination. Designers, thinkers, and makers collaborated daily, exchange ideas across disciplines. That closeness still defines the Tire today, a place where dialogue fuels innovation. In recent years, the Tire has grown rapidly, bringing together over 250 people from all over the world. What were once personal space have been reinterpreted as collective studio and shared areas, allowing creativity to flow across generation and culture. This continuous transformation preserves the essence of space. By adding its space to new way of working and thinking, the building reflects its central belief that architecture should never be finished, but always open to change. Because in truth, La Fábrica is never finished. It changes as we change. The same walls now hold new conversation, new technologies, new forms of collaborations. The architecture grows with the people who inhabit it. Light plays an important role here. It defines time, atmosphere, and rhythm. The way it falls on concrete in the morning or filters through vegetations in the afternoon gives the building its own living rules. Texture tells the story of labor. Every mark, path, or patch or repair is a layer of memory. We never try to hide them, obviously. Instead of that, they remind us that the building has been shaped by many hands across generations. Thresholds and transitions are central to the experience of the space. Moving from one space to another feels like turning a page. Each step reveals a new tone, a new emotion. The architecture invites you to experience rhythm, not only in form, but also in the way you move through it. The garden acts as rooms without walls. Nature blurs the line between outside and inside. And the coexistence of architecture and growth defines our philosophy. Here, nature is not decoration, but an active participant in architecture itself. Color brings energy. It highlights scale, signal functions, and connects us emotionally to the place. At the Taller, color is part of our identity. Each tone defines a specific space and reflects the rhythm of daily life. As Taller has grown, we have reimagined circulation paths, stairs, and terraces, transforming them into meeting points and creative bridges between teams. Those routes keep changing as our work grows. They tell the story of how we collaborate. Architecture here becomes not just a backdrop, but a living map of our collective imagination. The furniture, the proportion, even the way materials are used and reused all adapt naturally over time. Nothing here is frozen. Everything adjusts to the rhythm of work and life. It's a process of constant calibration where design and daily life inform each other. Every few years, we revisit the interior to match how we design and communicate. When digital modeling became central, we opened larger collective area. When new generation joined, we created space for dialogue and exhibition. Each transformations add another chapter to the former factory's story. Some parts have shifted completely. Workshop becomes studios, gardens become event space, and old archives turn into galleries. But every change respects the original idea, to stay flexible, adaptable, and alive. This continuous evaluation is what kept La Fábrica relevant half a century later. The evaluation of this phase reflects Taller's own transformation. As the practice grows, the architect grows with it. The building has become a kind of collective autobiography. Space has records who we are at every moment. Our approach to sustainability is deeply tied to continuity. We believe the most sustainable act is to reuse, not just material, but ideas, spaces, and energy. That's why this building remains vital after half a century. It was designed to endure, not to expire. What keeps this place special is its openness. It's not a monument, it's a living organism. One that welcomes transformation. Each intervention adds another voice, another layer to shared story. In many ways, La Fábrica is our teacher. It reminds us that architecture isn't static. It grows with us, it ages, adapts, and learns. And that's what gives it real life. When you walk through the spaces today, you can feel the presence of all those who have contributed. Architects, designers, model makers, artists, engineers. Their ideas live in the light, in the walls, and in the gardens. This shared memory continues to guide every project we undertake. After 50 years, the building continues to write itself. It has turned industrial memory into creative energy and keeps inspiring how we design, how we collaborate, and how we imagine the future. The story of this place is also the story of collective imagination, of how a diverse group of people keep reinterpreting the same space through changing time. It stands as a proof that architecture can be both timeless and in motion. Every element, from the garden to the silos, reflects a balance between order and freedom, precision and emotion. This harmony has always been at the heart of the Taller's philosophy and at the many cultures and disciplines that coverage here. When we redesign or expand the project today, we follow the same principle that has guided us from the beginning: to edit with respect. We keep what carries meaning, remove what no longer serves life, and add only what helps the space to grow. In that sense, La Fábrica is more than architecture. It's a way of thinking. It challenges us to see every constraint as a potential, every trace of the past as a material for the future. It invites us to create without erasing. Over time, this space has become a dialogue between generations, those who build the first transformation and those who continue them today. Each brings a new rhythm, a fresh sensibility, yet all are connected through this shared architecture. This place shows that reusing is not only an environmental act, but a cultural one. It keeps memory alive while leaving room for inventions. It's a place where the past and future coexist, not in tension, but in harmony. When visitors arrive, they often describe the feeling of entering another world. Not because of a grand gesture, but because of the building makes you aware of light, sound, and air again. It reconnects you with the essence of space itself. What stands here is not demolition of the past, it's the reconciliation. It's a space that embraces its scars and uses them as a structure, turning ruins into poetry. It reminds us that the transformation doesn't mean destruction, it means understanding. What began as a cement factory has become a living laboratory for design and collaboration. Here, every generation adds a new line to the same narrative, a quiet belief in architecture's power to give a new life to the space we inherit. All members of the team from different generations and different nationality are part of the design process. We work together, learn together, and make mistakes together. La Fábrica stands as a living proof that architecture can grow, adapt, and inspire across generations. It's a place of continuous rewriting, a reminder that every structure holds the possibility of renewal, if we only choose to listen. Thank you very much.
Hi, thank you for your presentation and for joining us today. It was a very poetic presentation of the project. And to start the conversation, I would like to ask you, since the office has always been very, I would say, ambitious ideas for cities, I wanted to ask you, how do you see architecture's role today in rewriting urban spaces?
Well, it's an interesting question. I think, for example, in Bofill, we understand cities as living organism that basically constantly change to rewrite to adapt to the new needs, basically. And I think to rewrite the city means to give a new life and meaning to what already exists. We cannot deny what it was there and what used to be there. To reveal potential in, for example, old structures or forgotten areas or voids, or understand the underused spaces. We need to read all these layers of the history and culture. I think for us, for instance, architecture for us is it's about respecting the past while opening possibilities for the future. And this is basically our aim, to connect history, to connect people, and to have to add contemporary needs through thoughtful and creative transformations. Well, I think if this is the point, we should always, as architects, we should always try to think that what the context that has been given to us has a spirit. it's living, it has a history, and it has a culture. And by going through all this path is the only way that we can start to rewrite, to redesign, and to propose. If I may answer your question.
Yes, thank you. And going back to the project you shared, it has a really breathtaking scale, I would say. And my question would be, how do you ensure that human scale and intimacy within these monumental forms, within this very specific, unique, and different scale?
Well, this topic of human scale, it's an ongoing topic always in Taller. As you know, like the projects that we have are sometimes considered as monumental. They have a weight, and they have this kind of character that sometimes when you look at it, you perceive it as a monumental object. But even when we design large projects, the human experience remains at the center of our work. I think human scale for us is about emotion, comfort, is about connection. A building can be monumental, obviously, and still feel intimate. It is if the building doesn't welcome people that are going to inhabit and use it, that's a fail, obviously, for the architecture and for the building. And this is achievable through light, material, and proportions. We seek to create space that are both grand and personal in a way, let's say. And basically a place that people can truly make it for their own. The proportions, the human proportions, vegetations, for example, in Fabrica, this introducing human scale started with the first layer of adding landscape and vegetations. Adding greenery is somehow adding is giving this human scale, because this connection that you have with the nature is always it's sort of intimate, let's say. And then after that, by adding this proportion of human proportions, by adding walls, openings, doors, and arcs, which all of them designed by a specific proportion, you break basically this scale down to human scale, or what we use always calling, and we always say like scala humana.
Okay. Thank you. And I have one last question before we jump to the questions from the audience. That is, looking forward in the future, how do you see the role of transformation and rewriting spaces shaping architecture over the next decade?
Well, I think I can say that we believe the future of architecture lies in transforming what already exists. Like the amount of construction that we have is crazy. So we cannot easily say that, okay, every time that we want to, like in the future especially, like every time, okay, we are going to demolish and we are going to start from scratch. Even though sometimes it's necessary, I can say that the context that you receive is not working anymore and it's not adoptable, but it is not the case always. And I think instead of in this leagues start to expand, we can adopt, reuse, and reinterpret spaces to meet the new social and environmental needs. This approach is actually sustainable, as I was saying in the presentation, and it's not only sustainable but also cultural. It preserves memory while creating new meanings. Rewriting space somehow is about evolution and continuity, about giving architecture the capacity to change and inspire over time, just as La Fabrica, I would say, until today.
Absolutely. Thank you. And
Thank you very much.
following your answer, there is a question from the audience that I think it has the same sequence that thank you for your presentation. La Fabrica is an inspiration. Considering the changing nature of La Fabrica, how do you imagine it could be used as again, if not a studio, keeping its history as a factory and a studio?
If I understood well, the question is that if it would not be a studio in the future, what other functions it
What
can
could
be?
be, yeah.
Well, actually, the funny thing is that I think it can adopt, because La Fabrica, it used to be like a residential of Ricardo, like almost half of it used to be his own house, and like other part of it used to have like apartments inside for the guests. So it used to be residential. And then after that, during the time, we start to change the spaces because the office start to grow, and obviously Ricardo was not there anymore. So like all the living rooms, like Sala Kupuka, which used to be his private living room, now it's an office, or a place that we call a cathedral, like the top part of the COBE design in the silo, as they said. Now it's an office itself. So I think it's adoptable. And from the other side, like a partial of the studio still working as galleries and as exhibitions. So this is, I think the point is that La Fabrica is contained at the same time different functions, even though that the main function at this very moment is the office. But I think it has a potential to be rewrite again to further needs if it's the case.
And it's also part of the magic, right?
Yes, it's part of the magic,
to
obviously.
see this evolution.
Yes.
So I have one more question, that is the project. Wow, this is the most accurate practice of transforming space. I believe it's not just rewriting, but actually treat the space with respect to each individual person, material, and everything tangible and intangible. Just one tiny small question. How do you post-plan the usage of this new space? Is it curated to create very specific spatial experiences, or are the design spaces leave room for spectators' point of view? Like if the evolution of the spaces, if they are curated in a specific way, or if they are more fluid or free?
Well, they are more fluid and free. Basically, talking everyday base entire, this project is never meant to be finished. I mean, as Ricardo started it, he never had this idea that this project is going to finish in 10 years or 50 years. And that's not the aim of it. And basically, like the office is constantly changing. New project will come, new team will be added, or we will shrink sometimes, or we grow again. And based on the needs of the new people and obviously new generation, because the new generation, as they come to a place like La Fabrica to work, they have new needs. And based off those needs, we start to redesign and rethink of some spaces. For example, some bunker areas that we used to have and we have now is a meeting room, which we call it bunker meeting room. And this it reused actually after we grow, and we need like more spaces to meet, because at the same time probably like in one day different teams have different meetings at the same time. And we basically need those spaces to be rethink and redesign. Actually, at this moment, I'm not in Tyre, so the background that you see is not really aligned with with Love Africa. That's the best that I could get. But obviously, if I was there, one meeting room would be for me.
Absolutely. And I mean, I know that you are not there, but the pictures you shared was quite inspirational and beautiful to see. So
It is. Thank you.
thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay, so we need to wrap up. Once again, thank you for sharing your vision and for reminding us that rewriting spaces is not only about scale, but also about legacy, identity, and human scale. So thank you for that.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, to listen, and thank you for the invitation.
Rafa, you are without microphone.
Sorry. I was going to thank you, Alborz, for joining us and for sharing your insights. It was amazing to
It's a
see
total
everything.
pleasure.
Thank you. And also thank you again to Johanne Claes from COBE for joining us earlier. It was amazing to hear all these different perspectives on this great topic. And before we close, just a quick reminder that next month we'll continue our webinar series with a brand new theme, which is Cities as Canvas, Urban Landscapes. And we'll be joined by two incredible guests, Deborah Sound and Pedro Lira. So you definitely don't want to miss it. So thank you all for being here today, and we look forward to seeing you next month. Bye.
Bye-bye.